Michelle Graves, your host on The Power of Money, and I'm honored to have you as a part of my world in this coming segment. With The Power of Money, as you know, we are interested in three things. First, that you get the necessary education so that you and your family will have the information to do well in these difficult times. The second thing I'm interested in is for you to be empowered to prosper. I want only the best for you, but you can't get that if you don't have the education and then the drive to make it happen. And the final thing, and perhaps the most important thing, is that you be energized. Because life is more than a journey. Life is about living. And so I want you to learn these things and to be empowered and encouraged and energized. I'm Michelle Graves. Now here we go. Part of my world, the power of money. And this week, I'm going to be talking about, for this particular segment, surviving widowhood. And I should say, for men as well, the loss of a spouse can be absolutely devastating. And I'm talking about it from the perspective not as a widow. I am not a widow. I'm a single woman. But I have been involved with advising and counseling and guiding widows, including my mother, for 40 years. So I do think I'm reasonably seasoned on the challenges facing people that are now entering into this phase in their life. And believe me when I tell you that the loss of a spouse, in my opinion, is the most serious thing that a human can encounter. And that trumps diseases, marital discord known as divorce, financial destruction. Nothing compares to the loss of a spouse, period, particularly and especially if you have been married for any period of time. I'm talking about 20 plus years, have children through that relationship, have lived the ups and downs of a partnership, which is, again, partnerships in the world of business are shaky. So you can well understand and appreciate being with another human being with their likes and dislikes, male or female, just being in the same space for so long. There is a leveling out. So I'm dedicating this show to all of the men and women in the United States, Canada, wherever you view this show. This is dedicated to you all because of the things that are happening and unfolding, and because I am not only the money lady in terms of money and assets and handling resources, but I'm also an extremely compassionate person. And I'm given things that I have dealt with over the years that can perhaps help you in your transition. In the last 2 years, I've never seen so many people die. That's the first thing. Friends, family, loved ones, dead. And believe me, COVID, no question, 1 million people and still counting. COVID is still killing people. Okay? But for every person that dies, many of them have left behind a spouse. Really. And I don't care how you play it. Horrible. What do you do? How do you cope? How do you get through without feeling like you're losing your mind? Now, and I'm going to tell you what the statistics say. That men that become widowers are promptly on the hunt for another wife. Men don't like being alone. God said it is not good for man to be alone. They take it to heart. They typically are remarried within a year. They are. Doesn't matter. They're looking for a wife. But women don't have that same statistic. In fact, the majority of widows do not ever remarry. Once their spouse transitions, that's it for them. They're not looking for love. They are not looking for anything. They're trying to get their lives back together. And that's the purpose of this show today, because I want to give you not only some practical advice from someone who has guided and advised widows, but let you know what kind of resources are available. The first thing that you must do, if you do nothing else, because you're going to be numb for a long time. Nobody else can feel your unique pain. Even other widows, they have their own stories. Widowers, they have their own stories. Everybody loved their spouse. I think that's fair to say. They may not have been perfect, but that was their spouse. And therefore, they have a history together, a shared history, I might add, of likes and dislikes and loves and travel and children. Oh my goodness, that's a whole nother phase, children. And doing things that people that are married do, okay? Very amazing part of life itself. I'll be very candid with you. When I look at couples that have been together for a long time, as my parents were, he and her were together from her high school all the way until his death. And I remember with great fondness how they used to play and laugh and all the things, because they were young people and growing up together, okay, through their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and ultimately 60s, at which point he did transition and she was left behind. And she was devastated. I was devastated too. I was the firstborn, but there were four of us. But she and only she could lay claim to the fact that that was her husband. And there was no one else. There had not been anyone else for either one of them. And so when I look at her story and I look at so many other stories, I'm compelled to talk about this openly. I will say this, my father left her extremely well situated and was adamant that the items in the home, furniture, all that, were to be given away. He left her with adequate money to completely redecorate her home. Now, before you say, but that was what we did. And because my father was such a forward-thinking man, he said, we is not her. I'm not here. My memories are in her head. And he was insistent that we completely replace everything in that house. And it was tough. It really was. But that's what he wanted. He did not want her being reminded of everything that was their past through furniture and other items. Okay? And I think that's a forward-thinking man who would want to save his wife from the misery of reminiscing and talking about it, because the more you talk about it, it just keeps going on and on and on and on. And that was not what he was about. But let's switch back to what my recommendations and advice will be. The first thing is that when you are informed that the spouse has crossed over, there are some things that must immediately happen. And one of the first things that happens is that you have to quickly move into a mindset of funeralization, which is the body has to be either cremated or buried. And that requires The body has to be removed from where he or she crossed over. If they crossed over in bed, a mortician will send someone to get the body. If they crossed over in a facility or a hospital, the hospital is going to ask you, who would you like to pick up the body? If not, they can't keep it on the floor. They're a business. I tell people, a hospital is a business. And what they will do, if you can't figure it out, they'll put it in the morgue, in refrigeration, until someone comes and gets it, who is a licensed mortician. A family member cannot pick up the body. That's against state laws. So you got to work through that, and then you have to make that call. And if you can't make the call, maybe a child or a dear friend, someone has to make that call first thing out. Because you're in shock. Like, what? Someone has to make that call for that body to be moved off premises, whether at home, in a facility, in a hospital, wherever. Now, bodies that were involved in what I call accidents and that type of thing, that's a little different because depending upon the situation, the body would probably be moved quickly to the coroner's office because it's now a state issue in so many cases. If they died from injury-related accidents, that type of thing, the coroner has to get involved with that process. But for most people, it will be that first call. And again, you don't have to make a decision, but yes, you do. And prayerfully and hopefully, your affairs have been set in order, which is you already have a designated mortuary to handle this part of your life now. That you have done the pre-need, which is why I'm an advocate of pre-need, because the hardest thing in the world is to try to make decisions when you have encountered something so traumatic as that. So if you've got everything together, then you can begin to pull out instructions, insurance if you've already done an assignment, which I recommend that you do so that you don't have to get into the money part. I hope that you have, when this happens, you've already made decisions about the casket, about where the body's going to be buried, all of the protocol that is required, that I'm adamant that people do before that time. Because it's easy to say, oh, I wish I had, but it's too late. Because now you have to deal with the reality of this is where we are, and I've got to deal with it. And I don't even know how I'm going to be able to get it together. Well, I'm not asking you to get it together, but I'm saying to you that if you got it together, then it's not going to be so difficult for one of your children or a loved one to step in and begin to assist to get this done. That is so hard. That's so hard because, believe it or not, the majority of people don't have it together. They're struggling to figure out who's going to pay for this. Did he have insurance? Did she have insurance? Blah, 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 blah. Where's it at? Is it in a locked box? Is it under the tree? Is it in a safe place in the house? Where is the stuff? Because believe it or not, death is a business. And everything clicks because that person is no longer among the living. Okay? And while you will be devastated emotionally, life moves right on. People die every day. In fact, globally, in the hundreds of thousands, people leave. Geez, and they're gone. So, again, first thing first, push through the sorrow and the hurt, the deep hurt, from the loss of your spouse. and recognize that at that point, you're going to need to lean on others. And if you're blessed to have children or even friends that care, that's where you're going to have to pull it. And most people, if they have a modicum of empathy, will know when you call them what it is. I got a call from an associate of mine whose mother had passed in a facility. And she called, and the mother had just died. In fact, she was still warm. And I went there. I was grocery shopping, but I stopped and I went there because she said, I don't know what to do. Her father had already died, and now it was her mother who died. And I immediately began to ask questions and determine whether or not they had identified a funeral home who would send someone to pick up the body. That's another long story. I don't want to even get into it because the mother did not expect to die, and she did. So the family was left holding a lot of things that they should not have been holding if she had dealt with the reality of death and dying. In this country, and actually globally, everybody has different cultures and traditions, but this is a big one. So again, starting with who's going to pick up the body, identifying how this is going to be handled, okay, in terms of funeralization. If you don't have a mortician, it's not a good time to be picking one, but if you have someone that you especially like, then that phone call needs to be made, and they will pick the body up, they will hold it, and make arrangements. Please be aware, please, that morticians, specialists in death and dying, do not work free. Even the memorial societies that handle cremation do not work free. So you're going to have to identify who's going to pay for this and where's the money. Now, prayerfully, there's life insurance, for real, that is involved so that you don't have to worry about that. And don't make assumptions. Oh, I know he's got me covered. I know he took. You need to see what you have. And you need to know who owns the contract. Okay? And you need to know if the mortuary can take assignment on the contract so that you don't have to get involved with paying them. Because typically they'll take what's in the contract, they'll subtract out their costs, and the rest distributes per the contract. Am I being clear here? But that's where it starts. And you may, if you haven't done any pre-planning, and I hate to sound like a Grinch about this, but everybody on this planet is going to leave. Everybody is going to leave. Nobody on this planet Earth has eternal life here. They're going to leave. Some sooner, some later, but all leave. The soul leaves. And so I say to all of you that if you did not have insurance for him, my gosh, would you please have insurance for yourself? Would you please? Would you pre-need for yourself? Would you make sure all things are in order for yourself? Would you make sure there's adequacy of money and funding for yourself so that you don't have to subject your family to this? And this is stuff that nobody wants to hear about. They just don't, because humans don't like the fact that they're not going to be around. Okay, but I'm just giving you the truth so that you can order your affairs. I have been blessed to be in funeral situations that are very ordered. Everything's like a clockwork, and I am just so thrilled and relieved. Most of them were my clients. Okay. Okay? But when it came down, it was done. We didn't have any drama at all. So you want to make sure that is done. Okay? You would want to call your pastor if you are church affiliated. If you're not church affiliated, again, someone who can help you emotionally as you walk through this. Now, being blunt, not all pastors are good choices because they're overworked, underpaid, and may not be empathetic to your situation. And I'm saying this because so many churches today that have elderly, well, the elderly are sick, they're not able to get to church, they may not be giving tithes, all the above. And his attention may have shifted, or her attention may have shifted. Shame, shame. But it is a fact of life. So if you do not have a confidant in that level, find someone that is, that knows you, that cares about you, that loves you, and that can help you through the spiritual side. Because many widows and widowers are mad at God. Why did you do this to me? The question of why. Well, not every question gets an answer. Not at all. And so, but this is a part of the grieving process because you're in shock that you now got to maneuver on this planet Earth by yourself. And if you're not accustomed to doing these things alone, it can be hard. I tell married people all the time, particularly married women, I said, he has spoiled you so much. You don't have to take out the garbage. Nah, he takes it out. You don't have to wash your car. Nah, you don't have to wipe off snow. Nah, you don't have to do a lot. A lot, because he's your husband. That's what he does. You don't have to do a lot. But when you cross over into singlehood, if you don't do it, you're going to have to pay somebody to do it. And a lot of women are shocked. They, like, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, yes, you're going to have to do it yourself. Car repairs, all that stuff, scheduling appointment, all that stuff is now officially on you. And that comes at you fast. Woof, fast. So, again, step one, making sure the body is properly removed and that you can move toward funeralization. Now, let's talk about funeralization because that is a very important part of all of the above, as all of you know, who have been widows and gone through this. You probably don't even remember much about it because you were in such grief, but it did have a beginning and an end, and it did have a burial point, okay? And you do have to find people that will make phone calls and let things know, particularly today because people don't use the obituary in the local newspapers because they're expensive, really expensive. They're like, nah, I'm not going to do it. Well, how are people going to know when something has happened? And many people, like I said, depend upon word of mouth. Many of the funeral homes do announce people, but they don't do it in a way that you think about it. You just have to be typing and you see the name. Oh, man. Again, I'm going to suggest to all widows that if you haven't thought about some kind of memorial, that you think about it, okay? And if you are not yet a widow or widower, identify with the mortician that you want an obituary in the paper. It's expensive, but so what? It's the only way people are going to know that the person has crossed over, and a summary of their life, which is not adequate in most cases, but it's better than nothing. Okay, so you want to make sure that's contemplated and taken care of. Okay, this is all a part of pre-planning. All right, so let's fast forward. Some things that have to happen in short order. Hopefully, your bank account is joint, or if not, if it's a business account, maybe POD, payable on death, okay? But you've got to be able to access money because the process is not overnight. It takes time, and you need money to live on. If he's getting a pension, you've got to notify the company so that the checks will be issued to you if he has so authorized. And now it's law, which is that when he chooses his pension, he can take a lesser to make sure you get some. Now, it wasn't always like that. I've had to deal with that stuff where the husband wanted a maximum distribution, but upon his demise, she got nothing. Nothing. Well, you can't do that anymore. For her to get nothing, she has to sign off on that. I hope you didn't do that. But you have to let the company know so that they can begin to look at what's available in terms of whether he had insurance through them under a group plan. Many people have, and it continues after retirement. For some, not all companies, you have to look at that, and you have to make some decisions about how that needs to go. Again, with the bank, if both of you are on the account, it will not be difficult for you to get and access money to keep yourself going while these things happen. You have to notify Social Security. Yes, you do, because I don't know how the distribution was set up, and they will be able to advise you, but that's a call that you're going to need to make. I'm going to say while you're working on your funeralization for your spouse, okay, getting them involved so you'll know what kind of income, where it's going to go at the bank. Does it go to a joint, which is now you individually, etc. So those things have to be put in place because you got to know where the money is coming from, period. Even if he has life insurance and a portion of it pays for his funeralization, it's going to take a minute for you to get your check. It is. So how are you going to make do while all of this is coming along? For most people, it's not going well. It's not going well, which is why I share this might be the time to talk to your children or a lead child about helping you to do all the detail work so you can get through this. Because I'm telling you, you're going to lay in that bed and you're going to wish God took you away as well. Am I talking to somebody? I think so. It's rough. So again, if you've got real estate, how is the property held? Hopefully, it's in both names under what's known as joint tenancy with right of survivorship, which is he crossed over, she crossed over, so all the corpus passes to you. Okay? That's important because you pay taxes, you pay homeowners insurance, and you have other things, and you may be paying a mortgage. Okay? Gas and electric, water bill, all those things, whose name is it in? Because all that has to be changed. Okay? All of it has to be changed. And you're like, how am I going to do it? You're not. That's why I asked you, who can you trust to cover for you and to handle things for you? Now, prayerfully, you have a will. He had a will. She had a will, which gives instructions on how assets are to be disposed of. Now, if you didn't have a will, that means the court has to get involved. Right. And that means you probably have to retain an estate planning attorney to handle the proper disposition of these things through the court. It's called probate. Ugh. So unnecessary. So not needed. But, again, like I said, death and dying is a business, and the Internal Revenue Service wants their share. Okay? Their share. Now, if he's got 401k and all that, there are moves and maneuvers that can be taken to minimize the tax consequence. But the whole purpose of probate is to do a itemization of everything by ownership and then determine tax liability for the estate. Okay, now if you have a trust, you probably won't even have that experience. You may have to probate some small things. But for the vast majority of people, they don't have a will, or they did something at home because it's a friend of theirs. Oh, you can do it on the internet. Are you crazy? You can't be serious. You would do a will on internet based upon somebody else's recommendations without consulting an attorney who specializes in estate work? Well, I'm going to tell you what, you can do it, but if the court doesn't accept it, you back to square one anyway. Don't play cheap with your stuff. Please, if you've learned anything, it should be America is about paying for what you get. Don't squirm about it. You're grown. You have to do these things. It's all a part of your affairs being in order, because if you arrange your affairs not to be in order, which is I'm just living my life, forget this, you've left that headache, sir or madam, on somebody else. And I'll tell you right now up front, I am not available to be an executrix on anybody's stuff. I'm not available to assist with probate. I'm not available to assist with selling a house, because then you decide, well, I don't want to live in this big house. Well, welcome to the crazy club, okay? Because disposing of a house is not simple. It becomes very political. And whoa, you found out that your kids are trying to figure out what they're going to get on this house. And you're not even gone. You just don't want to live there anymore. Okay? So, moving on. You want to consult. You want to. Whether you think you need it or not, you want to consult an estate planning attorney. I don't care what your thoughts are. You're not a professional. I'm not an attorney. And you need to talk to someone who specializes in this. For real. It's a specialty. Did you know that? A general practitioner is not an estate planning attorney. The certification for estate planning attorneys is very rigorous. They know what they're doing. Okay? You want to think about that. If he or she has been in a nursing home and has found themselves on Medicaid, and you did not have the foresight to set that house up properly, the state's going to come knocking. Why? Because Medicaid is a state federal plan for poor people. So I'm not poor. Oh, you will be on Medicaid because your income has to meet certain thresholds. And if not, then you're not eligible. You got to pay out of pocket. That's a whole nother seminar, television show, etc. It's not easy. And in fact, as I'm thinking, you can go into The Power of Money with Michelle Graves, and you can pull up Mike Milanig under Medicaid. I did a lot of stuff on Medicaid shows. You can look at it. The laws haven't changed that much. You are entitled to $2,000 as a spouse, and that's it. You don't have anything else. You get a $50 allowance every month. That's it. So this is something you need to know about as well, which is the state going to put a demand on this house? Are they going to want me to sell the house and settle up with his portion? I didn't say 100%, 50-50. Are they going to want that? This is stuff you want to know. All right? You want to make sure it's okay. Now, if you're like a lot of other people and he just died, he's not on Medicaid, then the question is, can you keep the house up? A house is a monster, and it needs work. You cannot just live in a house. You've got to constantly keep it current, roof, furnace, everything, carpet, not carpet. A house is a lot of work, okay? And if you're not the one that did the repairs and your husband took care of that, then you're getting ready to enter into the realm of being taken advantage of. And I can speak to this for myself because in times past, I really didn't believe people, contractors, were that grimy. I'm not saying all contractors, so settle down. I'm not talking about you unless it fits. I'm saying that now as a female, you're going to have to cross over into that arena without your husband. And let me tell you something. Men get taken advantage of, but they don't get taken advantage of like we do, like women. Why? Because a man's doing business with another man, and the man he's doing business knows that if I don't handle this right, I could be dangling from the roof. Okay? Men go there. We, on the other hand, I need this fixed. How much you want? How much you charge? And they tell you whatever they want to tell you. Many do, not all. But it's just so tempting. Okay, you need the plumbing fixed. Something your husband could do simply, and all of a sudden, it's a major. Just some of the things you're going to have to look at and prepare yourself for. And many of you that are widows already know. But the power of this is that if you have other widows in your network, they can help you. I know some pretty sharp widows out here who don't play about nothing. I mean, really, they took on their husband's personalities, and Lord help the man that comes cruising in there thinking he's going to take advantage of her, whether it's plumbing or kitchen. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. But I would suspect, and I would believe from my own experiences, that you got to be really, really, really tough when it comes to people doing repairs and that type of thing. You really have to be comfortable. And if you have friends that are men that are honorable, they might be willing to help you to identify a person for that. That's all a part of this widowhood, surviving. I'm going to also encourage you as a widow. They have networking groups for widows. If you're on the internet or Facebook, type in networking widows. And go, there are churches, they meet, and it's there to encourage you so you don't just become a hermit, because many women become hermits. Many men do too, but not like women. Because remember, men for the most part are looking for an alternator. That's a replacement part on a car. It makes it drive. That's what they're doing. So I'm going to encourage you to show initiative and be involved in a networking group. There are some great groups that can help you. Now, some women don't want to share their pain with other women. That's fine. Keep it to yourself. That's fine too. You will find that people that you networked and socialed with a lot as a couple are going to fall by the wayside. You're the third wheel. They don't really want you going to their different events because, heck, they got a husband. They like to keep it that way. They don't want their husband to be your husband. I'm telling you, people do all kinds of things out here today, period. And so you will probably not get the same level of invitations. But it doesn't matter. If you're involved with a networking group with other widows, you can do things. You can go on trips. You can do outings. There's a lot of things going on today. You don't have to feel like I have to be a Mrs. to lead a productive life. Now, let me say a few things about your children, because I'm really getting ready to make some people angry. But I'm going to say it. They're grown people. Whatever didn't work out. They're grown people. Please do not become the nonprofit on money, which is, can you loan me this? Can you give me this? And it might be good if you just had a powwow with all of them and told them, this is all I have. And I know you don't care, but this is all I have, and I do care. And no, I'm not making any kind of gifts. And if I make a loan, I have to enforce the loan, which means if you don't pay me, for me to be able to write it off on my taxes, I have to show that I was aggressive to collect my little money, and I don't want to do that. So just don't do it, okay? I'm trying to get through the best I can. I have watched my associates, who are now widows, shell out money for their kids. Why? Because we love them. I love mine. But I'm a realist, and I know that when times get hard, like now, they've got to take care of their families, okay, and hope they have a little extra. The extra is their emergency for when things don't go well. I can't be their emergency account. I can't. I don't have it like that. I'm trying to stay above water, like backpedaling myself. I don't have time to do a church piece, which is, oh, I love you so much, and I'm going to give you this as a gift. I don't have that. And I know it rubs so many people the wrong way, but let me share with you a truth. Life will go on whether you give them the money or not. What will happen if you give the money is you will have less money to tend to yourself and the things that you will have to do. Okay? It's just the way it is. I'm sorry. There was a time where people were more honorable, but not today. I don't think so. And as a widow, you have to protect your own interests. Okay? Now, I know about the grandkids. I know you love them. And if you want to do something really awesome, get some life insurance on yourself where when you die, they will get the proceeds. First thing. Secondly, you can still be the owner. They can still be the beneficiary if they're over 18. Or you can do the second thing, which I did, which is I just got insurance on my grandkids, each one individually. It was so inexpensive. I got $50,000 on each one of them. Cost me $10 a month. I can do that. Okay? If they die, they have 50. If they become adults, they can borrow against the policy to get a car, to buy a house. They got money coming, and it's inexpensive. And you can do that. Okay? You can do that. And just tell them that this contract, if you want to continue it as an adult, you can. I'll change ownership, and you can own it. Period. You can make payments. But I would say that would be an easier way to settle the matter than you getting involved in providing them with things that are truly what their parents are supposed to provide for them. They just can't buy $200 gym shoes. Okay, buy some sneakers and do something else more valuable. Okay, I'm just being open about it. This is a difficult show for me because I've seen women wind up giving money, and then before they know it, they are raising their grandkids. That's not funny. It's one thing to be Mimi or grandma. It's another thing to be surrogate mother in a time where if you're not willing to adopt them, you don't have any authority over them anyway. You do not. Period. Parents don't want to raise them. Well, and you're feeling bad about it? Well, those are your kids. Really? What do you want to do? Think about that now, because that is epidemic in the United States. The number of grandparents that are raising their grandchildren because their children just simply don't want to do it. Well, you know what? We don't want to do it either. But they have to be raised, and they have to be raised properly, and they have to be trained. I mean, that's what I did, and I'm sure many of you did that. Now, some of you all out there were not good mothers, and I'm not going to beat you, and terrible fathers, and I'm not going to beat you, because you're going to have to answer to somebody greater, and your children are going to be a constant reminder to you about you. Okay? You got your talky walk, 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 you work, blah, blah, blah. So, as a widow, take care of yourself. Okay? Now let's talk about the money. Beyond you gifting with no recourse, which means I'm not going to ever get it back. Okay? It's a love gift. It better be. It better be. Because for some reason, they would do that to you. But for those of you that are widowers, I already know you don't loan them money. Men don't do that. Men are like, are you kidding me? No. And kids don't come that way with them because they already know that it's just going to be a problem. But mama's nice and soft. Right. Men don't do that. So man up, women. Man up. No, I don't do that. I've got to take care of me. Trust me when I tell you, men do not do that. Why? Because it's not in their nature to take care of grown people. They provide, protect, but that does not include grown kids. Nope. They'll tell you, go to a homeless shelter if you can't pay your bills, go to a homeless shelter, find a friend, live in your car. I'm not against it because it keeps down a lot of scruff, okay? And for you women, it keeps you from crying all the time because you don't have the money or because they've taken advantage of you and they've gaslighted you, which is to make you feel like you're the victim. You're like, am I choking myself to death today? Point well intended. Not saying it to be mean, but saying it because it's a part of surviving widowhood. Now let's talk about finances and where your money's coming from and resources. If you are the widow of a veteran and you don't have money, there are programs available that you have to go through to get money. You can get money. I didn't say it was easy, but you can get money. If you have a home and you need to make repairs, etc., you can get a reverse mortgage. But I'm going to lose my home. If the bank owns it, you're going to lose it anyway if you cannot get on top of it. So I'm just giving you some resources. I'm not telling you what to do. Okay? You don't want to get a second mortgage because that's not going to improve your situation. Okay? And on the subject of a house, you may not want to stay in a big house. You may want to downsize, and I'm not mad at you because there are all kinds of wonderful, wonderful condos, gated communities all over Florida, all over everywhere. Okay? People are living different lives. They are. Now let's talk about your health because time is wrapping up. You want to stay on top of your health because stress will take you out of here. You want to get an annual physical. If you're under Medicare, Part C Advantage is included anyway. Tell your doctor, I need all my blood work, I need to stay on top of my health. Okay? You do because it will wear you down. So you want to stay on top of your health. You want to stay on top of exercise, volunteerism, and reaching out to other people instead of going into the hermit lifestyle. Okay? And finally, and most importantly, as I close out today's segment, of surviving widowhood, if you've never had a close relationship with the Father and all your love notes have been to your husband, now is the time to really make a change, because I'm going to be very open with you. The women that had relationship, I don't care what your denomination is, and it could be none, but the women that had relationship with the Father were able to get through it a lot better than women that did not. You need help, and I'm giving you the best help I know available. At the end of the night, you can get on your knees and you can cry out to Him and you can say, thank you. I got through today. That's a lot, folks. And thank you for being a part of today's segment of The Power of Money. I hope you've enjoyed the information I provided. If you have need of my services, you know how to reach me. You should, 513-237-3914. Work with widows for 40 years. Not easy, but you can get through it. And again, I thank you for the opportunity to be in your life, to be in your space. And I send blessings and peace to you. You take care, and bye-bye.